Here we go again. It is episode 5, I think we're on now. Sorry we got the episode a little late out to you guys. We just had a problem all getting together at the same time. And speaking of that, I'm only joined by Hayden today because Isaac couldn't make it, but he'll be back with us for a Sunday episode. Hayden, would you like to say hello?
Absolutely. Looking forward to some good conversation with Pete here. None of that Oklahoma Baker Mayfield hype nonsense. We can get into the goodies tonight.
Heck
What do you,
yeah.
how about you?
Heck yeah.
So Hayden, as usual, I know you always got a hot take to start us off with, and I'm sure now that Isaac's here, you won't get too much backlash for it. So you got a hot take for us?
Yeah, and it's not too hot a take. I think it's pretty common. It's more of a disappointing thing. But what do you think, Pete, about the Boston Red Sox trading Mookie Betts, for Alex Verdugo, and I can't even remember who else they got, some 21-year-old pitcher. Um, but I just don't know how I feel about it. I mean, the Dodgers. I don't even think the Dodgers needed it. I'm not sure, if the trade made sense for either side. I think Mookie is, a generational talent, and they just gave him a big 1-year extension through this season. Who knows? Maybe things work out a little better than this past year, and you sign him to a 10-year next off season. But I just don't understand the trade really for either sides. And in my opinion, the Dodgers are still, not going to win the World Series by any means. And to me, my hot take, I guess, Pete, is this trade made both teams arguably worse.
Now, where I would go different with that is I think the Dodgers, if you was to pick a winner, it would be the Dodgers, 100%. Now, I don't know what that
I
21-year-old
agree.
pitcher is going to turn into. He could
Right.
turn into, Garrett Cole or something
So,
like that, but I'm pretty sure he's not. The only problem I see for the Dodgers, they just added a generational talent, as you said. Probably one of the best outfielders. If you were to go Yelich, Mookie Betts, and Trout maybe, or something along those lines. And you're telling me the Dodgers are going to have any payroll to sign any more people? I know baseball is a league full of, no salary cap. You can buy whoever you want if you're in the big cities, but there's got to be a problem there when it comes to extending him. They still got Clayton Kershaw's massive deal, and that's not even stating the multiple other big contracts they have. But from a team standpoint, what were the Red Sox doing? Did they just plan to build around Xander Bogaerts or what? I mean, it's the Boston Red Sox. It's not like it's the Blue Jays or the I'm sorry to say this, but the Milwaukee Brewers. You're a huge team with huge following, and you trade away your best player. It doesn't make very much sense to me. Uh, there's not even much to say about it. It just doesn't make any sense. I forgot about it until you brought it up, actually, because it made no sense when I first saw it. I'm like, what the hell? But thanks for bringing it back up to me, because now I'm kind of irritated.
yeah. And going back to the salary cap thing, I mean, do you believe it or not, there literally isn't a salary cap. The Dodgers, I mean, they got Clayton Kershaw, like you mentioned. He's making 30 million now. Mookie's up there. They're gonna have to, give him a 10-year deal next year, and then Justin Turner, Kenley Jansen, David Price, AJ Pollock's about to sign an extension. Cody Bellinger's about to get paid. Uh, Corey Seager's about to get paid. Enrique Hernandez, actually, I could see them letting him walk. Um, Max Muncy's going to get paid. And then not to mention, of course, Walker Bueller's going to get a multi-year deal, into the hundred millions as well. And then, a year after that, they got to pay Gavin Lux unless they do something with him. So it just never ends, and unfortunately they can ship, Jock Peterson. He's going to sign a huge one in a couple years. And then, the Angels are going to have Jock, Anthony Rendon, and Mike Trout, together on $1 million contract. And it's just ridiculous because you're right. That never happened somewhere like Milwaukee. It would never even come close. Two guys on the Dodgers are the entire Brewers payroll right now. Um, it's
I'm
just ridiculous.
I'm struggling to find a way we're gonna sign Christian Yelich long term if we don't start clearing up cap space. Because I know we don't have that much. I know there's no salary cap, but we don't have that much money to spend in the first place.
This is a conversation for another day, but Christian Yelich signed that extension early. We got him for another 3 years at the least, for like 15 million. Actually, I almost think it's like 7 million or something. I can't remember what it is. But if the Brewers are smart, honestly, I would trade Christian Yelich. I would do it.
Okay, that's a conversation for 100% a different day.
And
I
I'll
don't even want
explain.
to get into that.
I'll just briefly explain. Solely because, just like we're talking about, like you can't sign anybody in Milwaukee. So I mean, everything's got to be basically groomed from the bottom up. Or trades once they're in the minor leagues, and it's just unfortunate that you're exactly right. I mean, we'd have to give him every cent we have, and play with a bunch of 19-year-old guys who should be in single A. But anyway, yeah. How about we move on to the Super Bowl here? Get into a little talk about his game.
For sure, for sure. So one thing I noticed right away from the beginning, well, I guess you could even say towards the end, was Jimmy Garoppolo cannot throw the ball at an elite level like everyone has been bragging on about. Oh, he's supposed to be Tom Brady's replacement. Oh my gosh, he's so good. Oh, he's so handsome. Okay, that last one may be right. But however, how many passes did he throw again? Maybe 12, something like that. It was ridiculous. I mean, maybe connected on. He just didn't throw the ball at all. What I think they held him to under 200 yards, maybe somewhere around right around 200. Let me pull up the box score here. Uh, it, it's just insane. They signed him to a horrible deal. Now that you look back on it, it's horrible. I mean, sure they could keep going. Sure he brought them to a Super Bowl, but that was the piece they were missing. If they had a quarterback who could throw the ball that game, the 49ers end up winning that. I mean, that's just my opinion. But on the other side of the ball, we're looking at Patrick Mahomes just doing Patrick Mahomes things. I mean, he looked pretty, I'm not going to say awful, but pretty average in the first half where the score was still 10-10, threw a couple interceptions if I'm correct, and among other things. But towards the end, Patrick Mahomes showed who Patrick Mahomes is, and that is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and we're probably looking at a $300 million contract.
Whoa, I mean, a $300 million contract. I mean, I think the record is like 137 and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, I was a little bit overreaction, but I mean,
Wow.
he
You were still
deserves it.
thinking eight. Yeah, no. I mean, if a 10-year, $300 million deal existed in the NFL, give it to him. I think what is he? Is he 24? I believe.
Mm-hmm.
24, 10 years from now, he's still going to be younger than Aaron Rodgers is right now. So yeah, I'd absolutely give him 300 over the next 10 years. But you're exactly right. I mean, the game came down to, I mean, it was just a stereotypical game. The defensive team, seems stronger, and then the greatest player in the league just kind of takes over toward the end. That's exactly what happened. We've seen it with so many quarterbacks so many times. So many of the great quarterbacks, that is. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to. A guy like Patrick Mahomes who can just take over a game the way he did. And a coach, like Andy Reid, who kind of has been around long enough to know the ins and outs of the job. And I think, the mix of Mahomes being so much better than, Garoppolo and Andy Reid, respect to Kyle Shanahan, but a young mind like that, sometimes it's the older coach almost always has an advantage. And especially when they have a guy like Patrick Mahomes. So the game went about how I thought it would go. I thought the Chiefs would come out on top, but the Niners did play well. Their defense did well, especially in the first 3 quarters there. And I believe they're up 20-10 going into the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Chiefs scored 3 touchdowns unanswered, exactly how you'd expect it. So it was a great game to watch, though. I enjoyed the Super Bowl. I always do enjoy the Super Bowl, obviously. Some years more than others, though. And even though it wasn't Green Bay we were watching, it was certainly a fun Super Bowl. And the halftime show we could get into a little bit, I suppose, if you'd like it, Pete. I suppose for some of you, it made the Super Bowl a little better, and some of you quite the opposite. I saw that a Christian activist down there in one of the southern states. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Pete?
There was a woman, right? Correct.
No,
Older woman.
It's a gentleman.
Oh, okay. Well, we were looking at different tweets. Probably said the exact same thing, though.
Yeah. He's suing the NFL, Pepsi, and his cable company for $867 trillion for bringing pornography into his home. Can you believe it, Pete?
I don't think it's really pornography. It was just a couple of good-looking cougars doing their thing.
No, the gentleman posted a video. It was like a 10-minute video of him talking about it, and I mean the whole thing was, what was he calling it? Crotch shots, I believe, is what this guy was saying. Dare he say is what he said. But yeah, that was his thing. He said he tuned in to watch a football game, and then he kept saying not a porn show.
Well,
So
the good part is for this guy, if you're listening, I'd like you to sue me as well because there's a simple thing you can do, and it's usually a button right around the top of the remote, and it's usually red, maybe has a little bit of white outlines. It's called the power button, and you can
mhm.
actually turn off the halftime show if people didn't know that. People who care so much and get offended like that, they can turn the Super Bowl halftime show off. But we're not here to get into that. We're not here to get
Well,
into
let me just finish it off, Pete.
go
Because the
for it.
crazy thing about it is that he had turned it off, and he saw a clip on it the next day. I kid you not. He saw a clip on Monday. He had turned it off during the game Sunday, and he's suing all of them, including his cable company, for putting it in his home, even though he didn't even watch it. It's just unbelievable.
So I'm assuming this guy just has money to blow if he's getting a lawyer for something that dumb.
I don't know, or he doesn't have money, and that's why he's suing the NFL for $867 trillion.
Are you
I don't
sure
even
it's
think
trillion? Is that even a thing?
that's literally what the link says, but I almost think that it's just, he's just suing him. Here, let me look it up here. Um, I'm just going to search 867 trillion, and I'm sure the links will come up. And sure enough, there, top one. Christian activist suing the NFL for $867 trillion after for piping pornography into his house during the Super Bowl halftime show. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But getting down to the bottom of it, great halftime show. Overall, I've always liked Shakira. Hips Don't Lie is my jam. If that song
Ooh,
comes on, I'm shaking the hips harder than you can ever
Waka
shake them.
Waka.
Ooh,
That's a good.
Waka Waka. That takes me back to the childhood days.
It really does. It really does.
But a couple of unsung heroes of the Super Bowl that I want to point out because, in my opinion, I don't think Patrick Mahomes deserved a Super Bowl MVP, even though he got it. I mean, he definitely put up a fight for it. But Damian Williams, dude had
Wonderful.
17 carries, 104 rushing yards, 4 receptions for 29, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 reception touchdown, and he didn't even get interviewed after the game by any station. That's the crazy part. I mean, sure, Patrick Mahomes is great, and we just talked about him on another level, how he's the best player in the NFL, and how he deserves a record-breaking contract. But Damian Williams, put some respect on his name. Put some respect on his name. We're talking about the number one defense in the league he did that against. So please, people, think about it in your head as Damian Williams winning the Super Bowl MVP. Another guy I want to throw out there real quick is Deebo Samuel. Watched him. He didn't have the greatest performance through the air. 5 receptions for 39 yards, averaged about 7 point something catch. But the 3 carries he had for 53 yards, he was electric out there on the field. And just if he had a better quarterback for him to throw to, that I think that kid's gonna be something special no matter what, no matter who's his quarterback. I think he will be someone that we should keep an eye out for fantasy drafts as a late round steal next year.
I don't even think he'll be a late rounder,
Ooh,
Pete.
what are you thinking? Where do you thinking he going?
I mean, I don't know because the Niners aren't obviously known for their throwing. Um, but I certainly think he's going to emerge as the number one guy there.
Oh, for sure.
And um, especially if they don't re-sign Manuel Sanders there. But who knows? Jimmy G can improve. I mean, he clearly has to, right?
Yeah.
Uh, maybe that is a bigger deal, being the only weapon. But of course, you got a guy like George Kittle who is probably going to be his number one target. So I guess it all depends. But I don't know. I certainly think he's going to be a guy that gets drafted by 95% of fantasy leagues for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I feel like you saying that he's going to be the 49ers number one guy was throwing a little bit of shade on future fantasy football, actually current fantasy football star Dante Pettis.
Dante Pettis. I mean, do you really think so, Pete?
No, no, 100% don't think so. I mean, I drafted him in so many leagues, like, oh, he's going to be the Niners' number one guy. He was probably my big. I mean, I got him at the last round of almost every draft, but still, it was Dante Pettis. If you're listening, Dante, I live in Wapaka, Wisconsin. Anyways, anything else you want to say about the Super Bowl? Any other last thoughts in there before we move on to the NBA trade deadline for the last little segment?
No, not too much. I think it was exact. Unfortunately, there wasn't one of those moments in the Super Bowl, that you remember. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't one of those just, game breakers. But other than that, no, it was a great game to watch. And it's a shame that we got to wait, half a year to watch some more.
Hey, Combine coming up, and then we got the draft not too far away, so
I am excited for the draft. That should be a fun one.
that should really be a fun one. One last thing I want to say real quick is that to all you Packer fans, I look forward to the Jaguars-Packers Super Bowl next year, so we should be rooting for that already, because I'm sure it will come.
Wow.
Yeah, I jumped a little ahead of the gun there, I guess, but
Yeah, you did.
all right, moving on. We're gonna talk about the NBA trade deadline here on this episode, because it was you could say a pretty good one last night. Would you say so?
Yeah, and more so even today. I was sitting at work, throughout the morning here, and all of a sudden it was just, aside from the big one last night in terms of Iguodala, and I believe the night before was Capella, to Atlanta there.
Mm-hmm.
But, Woj just starts dropping bombs
Big
today, and
bombs.
of course,
Yep.
yeah, the biggest was, Andre Drummond getting dealt to Cleveland, you know, for I believe it was John Henson, Brandon Knight, and a second round pick, or something like that. And honestly, how do you feel about that trade, Pete? I think it actually isn't too bad a deal for Detroit.
We're talking about the excuse me. We're talking about the Drummond trade.
Yes.
Drummond for Brandon Knight, Henson, and lesser of Warriors or Cavs 2023 second round pick.
Wow, I didn't know 2023.
I like both. I think both sides. The Pistons got
I mean,
rid of Drummond, who
yeah.
really wanted to leave there. It also
No,
clears up a little bit of cap space. And Brandon Knight's a solid player that's going to come off the bench, probably give you 10, 15 points, somewhere around there, if he gets
okay.
enough time, of course. John Henson, ex-Buck, if I'm correct.
So is Brandon Knight.
Brandon Knight, of course, is an ex-Buck as well, but John Henson, I just remember more because that's Micah's favorite player, the North Carolina center, if you will. For the Cavs,
I don't understand the Cavs because they didn't give up Tristan Thompson in it.
and I was hearing they wanted to move on from Tristan Thompson.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so now you got two centers on expiring deals that you're not going to sign in the offseason. And it's the trade deadline.
Well,
so,
let's not overstate anything. Drummond is 120% better than Tristan Thompson. I guess the thing I'm trying to think about here is, did Drummond even like this move? Going to the bottom team in the East?
No, Andre Drummond, I mean, did you see his tweet?
No, I actually did not.
Yeah, I mean, this guy wanted to be in Detroit. He loved Detroit. He had said like a month ago in an interview he hoped they signed him to a max contract. He loved it, and they just kept shopping him. And I'm really not sure why. You know what I mean, Pete? You get a guy like that, and he wants to stay, let him stay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can tell you why. It's because teams are looking for that stretch five, the center that can shoot the threes, and Drummond was strictly rebound with the occasional offense and pretty good defense.
Exactly. He's a very old school big.
Yes, a very old school big, but I'm pretty sure he's not really even that tall. What is he? Is he a 7-footer?
Yeah, he is.
Oh yeah, okay, he is. I must be thinking about I'm thinking about Ben Wallace. I don't know why.
Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace was 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah, something like that.
Not too tall.
And then Rasheed Wallace, weren't they teammates?
Rasheed Wallace.
Where?
I'm not even sure. I feel like we're just babbling on here. I'm pretty sure he was on the. No, I'm thinking of Gerald Wallace now. Yeah, he was on the same team. He was a 6'11" guy. But moving on, we'll talk about some more trades here. Now that one, if you had to grade it, let's go through grade all these. What are you grading that one?
It was just kind of a dumb trade for both sides. I mean, because all they did was trade players. they traded players that were going to get traded just to trade them, basically.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, what good does John Henson and Brandon Knight in the 2023 second rounder? You know, it's going to make you worse this year, obviously, which maybe, probably is their goal. But I am surprised that there wasn't a team. I wonder what Atlanta wasn't willing to give up
Hmm.
uh, to Detroit, because of course there were talks about that. Because Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, um, they gave up Evan Turner, right? And I
Turner.
Turner, and I want to say, um, Jeepers, maybe a future pick or another, no name guy. Because then this afternoon,
Yeah,
maybe
just
it
a
was left
couple of no-name guys.
being Alex Len. But I mean, yeah, they got Clint Capella for basically nothing, and the Pistons got or sold Andre Drummond for basically nothing. So I'm surprised that Atlanta didn't make a move for a guy like Drummond as opposed to Clint Capella. But I guess if Atlanta's trying to get their guy, Clint Capella's, I believe he has 2 more years on his deal, worth only about 15 million. So he's actually a decently priced center, whereas they would have had to pay Drummond.
So, like I said, I want you to grade it for me overall as a trade. Where do you think it stands, both
Well,
teams?
C, maybe I mean a C for both sides.
A C for
I
both sides. I also agree. I do think it was a middle of the pack. Both of them kind of. I would even go maybe a C minus for the Pistons.
Pistons, right?
Yeah, and then maybe a C for the Cavs. As I think that was. I mean, it's a questionable decision.
Yeah.
Moving on though, Andre Iguodala and the drama going on with John Morant and all his other teammates goes to the Heat in a three-team deal. The Heat get Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill. Grizzlies get Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, Gorgie Dang, and the Timberwolves get James Johnson. If I'm the Heat, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grade this one a B minus. I think the Heat get a experienced player like Iguodala. I think they signed him to a 2-year, $30 million extension, if I'm correct, right after the trade. They also get some great rotation players in Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill. So overall, I think the Heat did well enough on this trade to warrant a good grade and you know, a good haul back. Grizzlies, on the other hand, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give them a B plus. They got rid of maybe even an A minus. Now I'm thinking about it. The Grizzlies got rid of Andre Iguodala, was just sitting out and causing drama in the locker room and all that, and they got Justice Winslow back and Dion Waiters and Gorgie Dang. Now I understand Justice Winslow isn't maybe the all-star we all thought he was going to be when he got drafted, but it's still another young player to throw into that group of who they all have. John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., the Michigan State alumni. I think they got a good core building, and I think with players like Dion Waiters and Gorgie Dang too, you're good enough bench guys. I think they got a team set for the future, or how do I put this? A build for the future. And the Timberwolves, they got James Johnson. I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm not even going to give them a grade. That was so bad. But what are your takes on it?
Um, I think the Heat. I do think that's just a little too much to give a 37-year-old Andre Iguodala,
Mm-hmm.
and especially exactly to give up a young guy like Justice Winslow who will fit in right alongside, right in that lineup there in Memphis, and they are going to release Dion Waiters. I saw they're
Oh,
either
they
going to
are?
buy release him, yeah,
Okay.
which makes sense. I know that since his episode on the plane there early here, that teams haven't really wanted him, but he did come back to Miami and play for a few weeks here as well. So I don't know what that was about. But yeah, I think the Grizzlies definitely turned something out of nothing. Andre Iguodala wasn't going to play a game, and he was going to walk in free agency, and you get a guy like Justice Winslow out of it absolutely every time. Um, and now I did see today they got Jordan Poole, I believe.
Oh, Jordan Poole as well.
Yeah, they got Jordan Poole from the Warriors for I can't remember. I cannot remember. But they did. And then, of course, the biggest trade today,
Oof.
uh, D'Angelo Russell, to Minnesota for, I believe it was Wiggins, a 2021 first,
Top
and I
three
believe
protected.
second. Yeah, yeah. What do you feel about that one, Pete?
You know what? I love this for both teams. to be honest, I would go ahead and almost smack dab say maybe an A for both. I mean, the Warriors are eating up Wiggins' contract now. I think takes a little too much smoke than people give him credit for. Sure, he signed to or not credit for. I think he takes too much smoke in general. Andrew Wiggins is he's a solid player. I mean, sure, he hasn't lived up to his ginormous contract, but he's still a solid player, and he's still somewhat young, if I'm correct. He's not insanely old. But in order to eat that up, the Timberwolves also traded away a first-round draft pick in 2021 and a second-round draft pick. But in return, the Wolves finally get D'Angelo Russell. Now, if you remember back at free agency, he was linked to the Timberwolves just about every day. You'd read a new story on them. And him with Karl Anthony Towns, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about, I think the Timberwolves now are looking pretty tasty here. I don't know exactly where they are in the standings. Let me go ahead
They're
and check this.
they're second to last. They're right above the Warriors.
Oh, they are second to last at 15 and 35. So this was just
Yeah.
a trade between two of the worst teams possibly in the NBA. But getting rid of Wiggins, I would be daring willing to say maybe not in the West. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe not in the West. But the Timberwolves are looking pretty good for their future.
Yeah. The Timberwolves were in a tough spot. Um, I mean, they gave up. I mean, who did they all give up here at the deadline? Obviously, Wiggins, Rocco, Gorgie Jang. I believe they gave up. Um, what's his name? Was it Jordan Poole? It might have been Jordan Poole.
Hmm.
Was he on the Timberwolves there? Who was the backup center on the
Are
Timberwolves?
you
The
thinking
name
of
is slipping
Jordan
my head.
Bell?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I want to say they sent him somewhere as
The
well, and
Rockets,
maybe
yep.
yeah, and a couple other players as well. So, and not to mention a 2021 first in that draft is going to be a fun draft. A lot of good players, especially compared to this year,
Yep.
and then a 2021 second, and all for D'Angelo Russell. It was certainly a bold move because now you're pretty much, you got Cat, D'Lo, and hopefully Jarrett Culver turns out to be something because you really have nothing else. Of course they got rid of Jeff Teague there a couple weeks back. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there is a winner. I don't really like this trade, Pete.
You
I think the
don't?
Warriors were better off with, once Clay and Steph came back and you had Steph, D'Lo, and Clay shooting the ball, all starting. Not to mention the Warriors could win the lottery and draft the center and James Wiseman, and the NBA is over again for the next
See,
5 years.
I like this better because now you don't have to worry about getting the ball into three shooters' hands. You go ahead and select Clay and Steph into their guard positions, so Clay can play a shooting guard position where he normally plays and where he's the most comfortable, instead of having to move him to small forward and move D'Angelo to shooting guard. And then you got Wiggins, Green, and then possibly, like you said, James Wiseman next year. I mean, I think the Warriors are already back on track. I think with this, they do fine, and they get another first round and a second rounder. You know what? I might even go ahead and say the Warriors won this.
I agree that the Warriors won the trade. I absolutely do. Um, the Warriors kind of cleared house a little bit. They sold Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson, I believe, to was it to Minnesota, I believe.
Yep.
Um, and then that moved there, and you're exactly right. I mean, a starting five that could consist of that. It's over again.
It was
Unfortunately.
the 76ers as well. We made a little mistake there. Not Minnesota. So I want to touch on the last two trades that maybe are worth talking about, maybe not even worth talking about. Marcus Morris and Isaiah Thomas going to the Clippers. Overall, I like that. I think it adds more depth to the Clippers, and I think they didn't have to give up too much. I mean, a 2020 first, sure, but Marcus Morris is a good enough player to warrant him and Isaiah Thomas, and just giving up a 2020 first, I think it's 100% worth it. And the Knicks, in general, have enough power forwards. As we know, they signed about 20 of them during free agency, so.
Yeah. And did they who was it? Was it Mo Harkless? I believe it was Mo Harkless.
Mo
Yeah.
Harkless, yep.
Yeah. And was there anyone? I think Jerome Robinson went to Washington.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yep.
And now I saw the Clippers are going to release IT.
Are they? Oh, no.
Yeah,
Let the
and I tell
man
you
win a
what,
ring.
no, I think Boston picks him up. I really do.
You do.
I think I do. I think that's exactly what'll happen. They're going to get bought out, and Boston's going to pick him up, and he's going to be a stud backup point guard under Brad Stevens again. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. That's just my hunch. It's a hot take, but hey, watch it happen.
I mean, Isaiah Thomas is still, shooting okay. So I don't,
He's
I don't,
okay.
I don't. I mean, he's not even on a huge. Is he still on that huge contract? No, he's
Oh,
not.
he's a 1 year minimum
Yeah,
right now.
he's on 6 million. Oh, that was 2017. So yeah, now he's on a 1 year minimum.
Yeah.
The
Remember though, the last pick of the draft, and I
last
think
pick.
20,
Yep.
round two, pick 30. I think it was the Kings.
Yep, the
If I'm not
Sacramento Kings. Then he moved to the Suns, and then he had his time with the Celtics.
mistaken.
And we all know what happened from there. The
Yeah.
last trade I really want to go into, and maybe not even speak too much on, because there's a lot of names involved here, and I don't really feel like naming all of them. Rockets end up getting Jordan Bell, a second round pick from the Warriors, Robert Covington. Timberwolves, Malik Beasley, a Nets 2020 first round top 14 protected from the Hawks. Let's see here. The Hawks, of course, got Clint Capella. I mean, that's the biggest one here is that we're looking at the Hawks getting a center to finally play. And the Nuggets, I mean, Shabazz Napier, Gerald Green, a Rockets 2020 first round. I mean, a lot of picks being moved during this trade deadline is one thing I noticed. Overall, Hawks, I mean, I like the move for Clint Capella, but like you said, he's not a stretch five. I think he'll be able to get the boards and everything, but I really want to know what more they had to throw in to get Andre Drummond.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was. I I think exactly what I had said probably played a part in terms of you have Clint Capella for the next 2 years at 15 mil, and you would have been paying Drummond 29 to 30 a year on a 4 year max. I mean, obviously that's what he's going to sign wherever he goes. I don't know where he's going to go. I mean, I can't think of a team right now that's building a team where they would want to pay an old school big a max contract.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, because Andre Drummond's I mean, he's a double machine. The guy, it's like 16 and 16 a night. Um, he's a great defender, obviously as well. But it was a weird trade. Obviously, the Rockets got PJ Tucker, a 6'5" guy, starting at center in the NBA. I mean, what are you going to do in the Western Conference Finals if you get there and you're going, and PJ Tucker's guarding AD? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that the Rockets, trading basically Clint Capella for Robert Covington is what they did.
Yep.
I don't think that was worth it at all. And now Denver, Denver getting a couple nice guys off the bench there in that pick. Good for them. They got rid of Malik Beasley before having to sign him to a longer deal. And I forgot about him as well. So I do think that makes Minnesota's case right now a little bit better. Having a guy like him probably start at shooting guard.
Yeah.
Maybe a D'Lo, Beasley, Jarrett Culver backcourt there.
That'd be pretty nice. That would be pretty nice
Yeah.
looking out for the future. And then, of course, big man Cat down there at center.
Do they still have Noah Vonleh at the 4?
Ooh, I want to say.
I don't think they sold him here at the deadline, but he's a nice, he's not a bad player.
He's not a bad player at all. And,
So, yeah.
Still, he plays on the Denver Nuggets now. So they actually.
So he was in the trade.
Yeah, he was.
He
In
went
the
to Denver.
I just didn't
Okay.
mention him.
Okay.
But overall, the thing I really noticed about this trade deadline, no big teams making moves. A lot of big names, but all to lower teams.
Yeah.
That's one thing
Exactly.
I really realized. Besides the Heat, obviously, with Andre Iguodala, but
And the Clippers with Morris.
yeah, of course, the Clippers with Morris. I wouldn't even consider the Heat move that big. I mean, Iguodala is old enough where he could probably be my grandpa. Obviously overstating there, but
Wow.
he's definitely older now. Not very many. I would have liked to see a little bit more, to be honest. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more action from the Bucks. Maybe I think the Bucks could have done something. Matter of fact, I saw rumors of the Bucks going for Andre Drummond not too long ago here, and you know what? I would have accepted it. I like the idea of Andre Drummond, even though we got both the Lopez brothers, and they're actually not doing too bad either. I think Andre Drummond would be a nice change of pace, if that is the right word to use.
I don't agree. Here's why. Um, like we were talking about, he's an old school big, and you got a shot creator like Giannis who kind of owns the paint. The goal.
Mm.
Giannis is going to be the most successful with four shooters on the court. And spread them around the perimeter, and he drives to the lane and either stuffs it down a guy's throat or hits it out. Dishes it out for an open three. And a guy like Andre Drummond just stuffs the paint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it
That's
wouldn't really be worth bringing him in just
right.
to be a change of pace guy because he's a starter. I mean, even if
Exactly.
he's not a good stretch five, he's still a starter.
Exactly. I would love to get a better shooting center. Brooke and Robin are both shooting 28% this year. Unfortunately, kind of Brooke is, kind of going down from what he was doing last year. But
And at the beginning
um,
of the year as well.
yeah, you're exactly right. I'm surprised teams like Milwaukee or maybe even Boston. I'm surprised Boston didn't
Mm-hmm.
make a move of some kind. I'm really surprised the Lakers didn't get their guy, but I still could see, um, I still could see them signing a guy like Isaiah Thomas or
I like that.
Darren, of course, we've talked about as well.
I like that.
And yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be fun. But yeah, you're exactly right. The Clippers and the Heat, I guess, are the only teams that really made a splash. Although it is time that we kind of have to respect the Heat. I mean, it's long
Yeah.
enough, and they're still doing it. So I guess it is kind of a bigger deal, to get a guy like Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder back. Um, so the Heat are definitely going to be, I think for sure a top three team in the East, but I don't think they're a playoff team by any means. They seem kind of jumbled together, if you
Yeah,
will.
I agree. I think they're glued together, kind of. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, we're gonna get into the last segment here, which is just my soccer roundup, and not too much to talk about here tonight, unless Hayden had to throw anything else in there about the trade deadline. Hayden, you got anything else to throw in there?
No, I can't think of any other little ones there that are worth mentioning. There were a few, well,
Yeah, there were a
like we
couple
said,
little ones.
few
Yeah.
little ones, yeah. But no, it was a fun deadline for sure, especially today. Just hours before it ended, a lot of action, and it was a lot of fun to get those updates for sure.
So, trade deadline in the NBA, but it was also the transfer deadline in soccer just last Sunday, and at the last minute, Manchester United were linked to almost every striker in the world, but they end up going to China for Igalo. Now, if you guys remember Igalo, he did pretty good at Watford for a few years, but he's 28 years old now. Now, not by any means old, but he's starting to deteriorate. He should be in his prime right now, but it's just maybe the top of his prime. I mean, I can't see him getting much better, and they signed him on loan. Is this really what Manchester United has came to? Looking to China for a striker. I mean, nothing wrong with China and nothing wrong with the Chinese league in general, but and I understand players are on pause over there because of the virus going around. However, Manchester United could have done a lot better. They got money. I mean, open the bank. Let Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spend some money. I mean, Gallo is not going to fix the problems that Manchester United have, and I can guarantee you that. Moving on here, a lot of transfers I'm looking through here, maybe too many. Kevin Prince Boateng going from Fiorentina to Besiktas on loan. I'm just throwing that one in there because obviously I support Ghana when it comes to national football, international football. Angelino, the former PSV left back, moves from Manchester City to RB Leipzig on loan. I think good move for Leipzig, good move for Angelino in general, as he wasn't going to get first team football at Manchester City. Emery Can from Juventus to Borussia Dortmund on loan. Now this works perfectly. Juventus get to ship off Emery Can for a couple years, or it might be just a year here. And to be honest, they need to clear up money, so they better hope that Dortmund want to buy him at the end of the season because Emery Can is not Emery Can that he was supposed to be when he was younger. And finally, Yannick Carrasco going from the Chinese league at Dalian Yifang, if I pronounce that correctly, back to Atletico Madrid on loan. Now, I personally love this move because I think Lamar hasn't been cutting it for Atletico, and they could use a little bit more playmaking and pace on the left-hand side, and I think Yannick Carrasco ends up doing that for them. Besides that, Bruno Fernandes ended up making his move to Manchester United, and also Danny Rose moved from Tottenham to Newcastle. So that's it for transfer news, and besides that, Real Madrid got beat today by Real Sociedad. Martin Odegaard, the Real Madrid loanee, ended up scoring one, as well with Isaac as well scored two, if I'm correct, two and one assist. Odegaard is the Real Madrid loanee, and he didn't even celebrate when he scored his goal, obviously, because he still belongs to Real Madrid, just on loan at Sociedad. But another surprising victory, and this was in the Bernabeu in Madrid. So, I mean, it's not like they put out their bad team. Real Madrid put out a good enough team. So you really question it a little bit. Besides that, nothing too much to be talking about. Maybe besides, I heard rumors that Newcastle were going to be getting bought out by a Saudi Arabian prince or something like that, and he was going to start putting money into the club. However, I think that kind of fell through. And besides that, not too much in soccer. We'll hope to have more maybe be on our second episode, which should be coming out Sunday or Monday, as we hope to get it out Sunday for you guys. Anyways, that's going to do it for episode 5 of the Here We Go Again podcast. It is February 7th, and it is a Friday. Hayden, would you like to say goodbye or any last words?
Absolutely. What a wonderful time, Pete. Really enjoyed talking with you here. Had a lot of fun here, discussing some big MLB trades and also NBA, and of course the biggest football game of the year. Ton of fun. Can't wait to talk again this weekend.
Yes, and I will have to agree. No Boomer Sooner talk today, but Isaac will surely be back on for the next episode. Cross your fingers and knock on wood if you're an Isaac Wright podcast fan. Anyways, that's going to do it. Here we go again, episode 5. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.